Hey guys, remember to like the video and hit subscribe.
This immunity decision.
I agree.
But you come in and we're like, I didn't really know, and I like Amy.
I'm being polite. I do like Amy.
Dude, don't be like, yeah, Gorsuch is great, Amy's great. Amy wrote an opinion that that was what we were expecting as a bad opinion. He should not have any criminal immunity whatsoever. And that is garbage that we have to come at this with a reasoned posture. What do you think about that?
I mean, I slightly agree.
He said he's optimistic about Trump.
He does have some immunity about like you can't criminalize an action that he's obviously granted explicitly, right? But that's why I said before, nobody is asking that. Everybody knows that. That's obvious.
But you had the great response, which was, Derek Chauvin has the authority to apprehend and arrest suspects.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that his actions toward George Floyd are therefore immunized from any criminal review.
Sure.
That's bullshit. That comparison
yeah, but he would say
shows
that those actions.
need.
Yeah, but those actions don't come to the Constitution.
And also, you were so correct because
so correct or incorrect?
You were so correct.
Okay, thank you.
I just wish that you embodied it a little bit more because you get the energy for good logic.
Well, because this guy was at least.
It's almost more pernicious though when he does it. Because he puts a rational face to some of this shit.
Damn, you're going in on this guy.
Yeah,
He's not here to defend himself. What the fuck? Why didn't you come out and say anything? What the fuck?
You heard me a couple times. I couldn't even hold it in.
Barely.
Barely.
Well, you should have said something. Fuck you.
Well, you want me to come in and ruin? No, I mean, you gotta be nice as well.
I mean, I appreciated his hedging more. That if it was as bad as I say it is, it would be absolutely horrible. And he's hoping it's going to be a lot more like what Amy says it should be, which.
But he pulls completely out of his ass. Yeah, the judge can look at the evidence, just not the jury.
I didn't know about that. Actually.
No. That's completely made up.
Well, but then the question is, how do you?
No. The judge can oversee the evidence for purpose of applying the immunity doctrine, but not in a substantive way. There's no parsing out where he can look at the evidence and the judge can consider in a substantive way all of this act evidence or the stuff related to the pardon.
Sure.
They can just look at it for purposes of applying this bullshit doctrine.
They would have to, the substances, they would have to figure out if the substance is related to the actual power itself, right?
No, the substance would be use this to show his guilt with respect to the underlying crime. I don't know if that's just what you just said, but.
Well, the judge would be looking at it to see, is it related to that core power? And then if it is, it's tossed out, right?
Right, but.
Which is bullshit, I agree.
But he could not consider in a factual, substantive, evidentiary way, anything that applies under the doctrine for the purposes of proving or establishing guilt.
Oh, of course, but he would just agree with that. I think he did kind of agree with that, right?
Okay, but it made it sound like he thought that there was a judge-jury distinction for purposes of using official evidence to prove a crime, which is garbage. And there's no answer, by the way, to the hypotheticals that you presented. You presented a really, really good one, which is he was trying to parse out the difference between a DOJ and an official and why they wouldn't receive the benefit of the president's immunity. Why doesn't it just cascade down?
Yeah.
The only thing he had to say to that was a conclusory, he's not the president. But he couldn't really handle a situation in which, let's say, the president or Congress tries to criminalize the Department of Justice speaking with the president. Say the Attorney General, it's a crime if you talk to the president. Imagine that Congress passes a statute that says it shall be a crime for the Attorney General to talk to the president. Do you think that law would be unconstitutional or would be ruled as such by this court?
Oh, well, those are two different questions. I think I don't know the answer, but I think they would be allowed to do that, right?
No way.
It sounds crazy, but isn't every department and office authorized by Congress? And aren't they given the authority to draw the, as Congress decides how those offices interact with the president?
Yes, that they're allowed to do that, but, actually, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
The court said both the removal and appointment power and the duty to take care of the laws faithfully executed are part of the reason why communications to the Department of Justice are immunized and are core official. So why would Congress be able to criminalize it from the side of the Department of Justice and criminalize the Attorney General and all of the employees under the Department of Justice, but just not the president if what's being protected are the core executive?
That's what I was kind of saying. Because it would flow through. Because maybe in a very strict reading, you would say it couldn't, but Roberts is obviously going beyond that logic. Yeah, he's saying that well, if you could even look at the motivations, then that would defeat the whole purpose of the immunity. But if you could criminalize every single thing the DOJ could do, then you're basically criminalizing what Trump could do. So how could they care?
Imagine that you said that it shall be a crime for the archivists or for the pardon office to have communications with whoever the president is with respect to pardons.
Yeah.
That, of course, would be unconstitutional, and this court would rule it as such.
Or what if you could make it a crime for the FBI to haul anybody out of the office of the Department of Justice? So now when Trump fires them, they just never leave, but it's a law that the FBI can't go and take that person out of the office.
It's so fucking clear that this doctrine applies more broadly. The logic of it applies more broadly than just the person of the president, but arbitrarily, it's limited to former presidents or what the president while they're in office.
Yeah.
And there's not a good answer to that other than, well, he's not the president. And they didn't actually say it in the opinion that it only ever would apply to the president.
And you know what I don't like that just popped in my head as well? I don't like that. Like he talks about how you don't want to ask questions that you don't want to get the answer to, which there is some, like, obviously you want to stay away from certain things, but think about what the Supreme Court has just invited onto itself.
Yep.
We are now the sole arbiters, us, in determining what a president can be charged with for a crime, and we have completely taken that power unto ourselves to make that determination.
And you said it so...
Holy shit.
You said it so perfectly, too, because you were like, the incentive structure for Trump is going to be different. Now... it's not just the court. Other actors are going to tailor their conduct, whether directly said, like mentioned in the opinion or not, even though investigations are still allowed by the letter of this opinion.
Yeah.
What's going to be the incentive? Why would there be a special counsel to investigate potential obstruction of justice of the president if we know that, a lot of this stuff is going to be immunized? Why would there even be an investigation? So that's not to say that, I mean, by its own terms, the Supreme Court was upholding a lot of the precedent related to investigations, but because of the immunity decision, other actors are going to respond, and it's going to be chilled conduct. So you're not going to see as much of eyes on the misconduct of this administration.
Well, some is going to be chilled conduct, and other conduct is going to be hotly encouraged.
Hotly encouraged. No,
yeah.
what I mean is the investigations within the administration. Where is the potential? Do you expect, for example, an inspector general or a Her report style? Well, you haven't read the Her report, so of course you wouldn't know what that's like. But
what was the point of the Her report, though? I thought that. Is he investigating crimes?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you can even...
Crimes that occurred...
I thought you can indict a sitting president.
Crimes that occurred not when Biden was president.
Oh, so you can indict a sitting president for things he did when he wasn't
No,
president.
he was not going to indict a sitting president.
Oh, so it was just an investigation for funsies?
Based on crimes, alleged crimes.
What's the point of investigating a crime if not to charge for the crime?
So you could say the same thing about the Trump charging of the New York documents case.
No, because the goal was to charge him with a crime and convict him of a crime, right?
Yeah, no, but the goal would be potentially after Biden is no longer the sitting president to charge him with the Her report stuff.
Oh, okay.
So you don't know these things.
I don't know if I agree with that one.
You don't know these things.
I don't think I agree with that one, but okay.
How do you feel that you are a complete hack that didn't even read the Her report?
I didn't know how to read back then.
And so you do all this investigations into Trump. Where are my red-pilled conservative YouTubers? I need you to
the problem is
rise
they didn't
up.
read the Her report either, so
they know what it's about. Hey, YouTubers, rise up. No, but
I just don't understand. And the issue is too, like, we're arguing all this over the core stuff. There's a much larger basket of official acts too. Yeah. And we have no idea what a presumptive immunity. And like the thing is too, you know how courts will say like, well, we don't want to answer questions, that we don't want to ask, right? This is criminal stuff, so you have to answer, right? There could be like a case where it's like, okay, well, we don't want to hear that. You can't really do that with criminal stuff, right? You have to take a strong position. You either allow something to go through or you don't. There is no more political questions doctrine when it comes to, charging the president with a crime. So it's very, very, that's a huge power grab by the court.
Huge.
Yeah.
Humongous, you might say.
Humongous.
And
imagine thinking now, fuck this, the more I think about it, the worse it is. Now you have a president who's going to pick a Supreme Court justice, knowing that Supreme Court justice might at some point determine whether or not you can be charged with a particular crime that you've done. That's just crazy. I think that's gross.
And you didn't show that heat.
Well, we were talking about it. We went back and forth a lot.
You didn't show that heat, bro.
I said I think that's bad.
Okay. Well, I think it's a little bit worse than that. I think so. The
thing that actually irritated me the most, but he also conceded, but he conceded in a friendly manner. I don't know this guy enough to be like, I'm gonna fucking go hard, okay?
Good logic. You knew good logic though.
Well, but he was saying crazy shit, okay? This guy was saying crazy shit in a nicer voice. No, I'm just kidding. Not as crazy. The fact that I feel like we spent about 20 minutes to get to my original point, which was that originalism is great until we want to do something else. And he seemed to have no problem immediately abandoning it. Oh, yeah, well, there's nothing in here about this. Like, okay, wait, so then this opinion has nothing to do with originalism.
Yeah. And there's no good answer so when the tools of originalism fail you, we have to look to other tools. Well, that's also true of Roe v. Wade and Casey in these cases where, yeah, maybe there's not a clear textual answer. And so you have to look to the structure of the Constitution and of the 14th Amendment. And that's exactly the inquiry that left-wing judicial people have been criticized for fucking years and years. Where is it in their opinion? Where is the text? And you're going to invent some structural argument. But the thing is, the structural argument, which I fucking hate you because you were completely right. I just wish it landed better. The structural argument is all based on policy. It's all based on how you're going to, whether or not you're going to effectively chill or you're going to dissuade correct action from the president. It's not going to be vigorous enough. And so when you are giving policy arguments back, those are actually completely relevant to the analysis that the court gave, because the court was just policy making. They were just making policy. And so when you're
they weren't asking legal questions, they were asking effect questions.
Yes.
Where they were, because I believe, I don't think I haven't memorized it, but I'm pretty sure Roberts talks explicitly about the fact that a president would never get a fair trial. That's not a procedural question. That's not a law question. That's a question of how do we think a jury would respond, which is wholly outside of any sort of originalist. In my mind, I would imagine, like, we're not asking questions now like, well, what is the law? What is the Constitution? We're asking, like, what would the outcome be? You know?
Yeah, and I just want to also go to another precedent side of Youngstown. He's correct that Youngstown is a case for 1Ls and for constitutional law classes, but Youngstown doesn't deal with criminal immunity, and a bunch of different actors fall under Youngstown. Youngstown wasn't necessarily a suit directly aimed at the president's conduct. Yes, the president seizes the steel seizure mills, but that's applied also to other actors within the executive branch. And so by its own terms, Youngstown applies to the entirety of executive branch action. So how can it be that... I
think Fitzgerald did too, didn't it? Did that extend down to people being fired by... That doesn't absolve, like, the head of the FAA or whatever? Like, he can't be criminally...
But I think Nixon ordered it.
Sure, okay.
But the Youngstown analysis would also apply to if the president ordered the Department of Homeland Security to take some action. Maybe you apply Youngstown and see whether or not that is within the exclusive sphere or in the the sheriff's.
If the president ordered something relating to, like, the airlines, though, or whatever, just because you couldn't civilly hold the president liable. I don't think you can go civilly after anybody in the government as well, though. No, if they're operating within their job.
If they're authorized to do something, then that's correct. And there's also a difference between. There's a separate line of precedent about what kind of remedy you can have if there is a violation. So there's...
Oh, yeah, because in Fitzgerald, they say you can get back pay. So you're arguably made whole.
Potentially, but there's implied causes of action where you can sue for an injunction against an officer in their official capacity, but you can't necessarily get damages for every single case that you can bring in the government. The government has sovereign immunity, and so they have to open themselves up to be sued for civil damages. And that's why it's really important to keep these precedents separate. A lot of them relate to different doctrines related to, like, whether the inaction is unlawful generally, whether or not there's civil liability, whether or not there's criminal liability. There's a lot of different things that go into those different frameworks.
And it's, like, important. Like, you ask your mom or dad, like, hey, like, I really want to drink, vodka. And they're like, no. And like, well, you let my brother drink vodka. And it's like, well, your brother's 27 and you're 12.
100%.
Like, that doesn't apply evenly. Yeah, there's a lot of that. But,
And I wasn't buying the Trump optimism stuff either. I mean, he's talking about how Biden's immigration policies really dissuaded. I mean, Biden has enforced immigration law and done more deportations and removals than Trump or Obama in the sense relative to the amount of time that they've had in office.
I think the criticism is that Biden did put some sort of executive action moratorium, I think, on asylum claims or something, and people are like, well, he could have done that from the start, but I don't know if that would have held.
I think it's illegal. I think what he's doing is illegal right now.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have held for years.
But that said, I do criticize Biden for don't look weak. If your position is it's illegal and Congress has to do it, it's so obviously a political move when you do something that you've been saying that you couldn't do for years and years. The truth is, and you guys aren't going to like to hear it, Biden has no responsibility whatsoever for the amount of migrant crossings that increased after COVID. None whatsoever. The responsibility, and I'm looking to a fantastic Substack, will show you that Biden was processing claims faster than Trump. Biden was enforcing the law faster. We just had a very, very hot job market, and we were getting immigrants that we never got from different places. We didn't really have.
And because what happened too was there was a huge dip during COVID where you had nobody coming across, not just because of Title 42, but also because people were sick, and it was like scaring people to do it. And then there was that explosion after. And then once people found that asylum loophole, which had existed for longer than that, but when people had figured out that that was a way to get in,
the world is more interconnected. Word travels faster,
Mm-hmm.
And additionally, the exclusions under Title 42 they weren't formal orders of deportation. And so they've turned around and came back. And so it appears that border crossings and encounters are increased. I think 22-25% of those, it's in that range, are repeat people that they found before because of Title 42 exclusions, where before it was like 7%. And so a massive spike in those kinds of catches.
I mean, we can tell this too, and you can tell how much of a problem this will be, because over the next 4 years, I don't know if we're probably supposed to say anything about.
But now our job market is not as hot. It's not as like...
Sure. It is still fairly hot, but I don't think they're going to talk about... But don't ever use that.
What the
Don't ever say that in front of me over our job market, because they say that these people are coming into the country to lie and steal and invade apartments and eat dogs and commit crimes and all this other shit. It has nothing to do... So they would never make that argument.